A dangerous storm is about to hit the United States, and it just took a turn that changes everything. A massive system is developing right now, bringing widespread impacts across Valentine's Day weekend, severe weather, flooding, and even a surprising and very real risk of heavy snow. This storm kicks off today as significant severe weather is possible across the southern United States. We're talking damaging winds, large hail, and a few tornadoes from Texas to Florida. Widespread rainfall could also trigger flooding in low-lying areas. But that's not all, because some models are now shifting toward a much snowier outcome for this storm. Heavy snow might occur late Sunday night into early Monday across parts of the Ohio Valley and the Northeast. Depending on the track and intensity, we could be looking at anywhere from snow flurries to several inches of accumulation. And on top of that, 2 more winter storms are possible next week, meaning more heavy snow risks for tens of millions of people. In today's forecast, I'm going to break down exactly what you need to know about every single one of these storms impacting the United States. We have a lot to cover today. Big updates to the severe weather threat this weekend, and a model shift you need to hear about that could bring heavy snowfall to areas that aren't even thinking about it right now. So let's get into it. I want to start with our severe weather potential for today and tomorrow. This has already been upgraded to a slight risk of severe weather today across Houston, Texas, back through central Louisiana, and into southwestern Mississippi. A large marginal threat of severe weather stretches from southwestern Oklahoma all the way back through western Alabama. The biggest concern today will be damaging winds as we're expecting a line of thunderstorms. There could be some quarter-sized hail with a couple of storms as well, but we are also watching closely for a tornado risk. About 23 million people are included in at least a low-end tornado threat today. The highest tornado threat stretches from Houston, Texas, back through eastern Louisiana near Baton Rouge. And this is where a line of thunderstorms could produce embedded tornadoes this evening and into the overnight hours. Make sure you have multiple ways to receive alerts, have a tornado action plan ready to go, and stay with us because we will likely have live coverage later this evening when this severe weather really gets going. But that's not all, because on Sunday we have another heightened risk of severe weather across the southeast. We're expecting a line of thunderstorms to push through parts of Georgia and Alabama Sunday morning, and then by the afternoon, there's a slight risk area driven by tornadoes. We could actually see discrete or semi-discrete supercells form out ahead of the line. The Storm Prediction Center has warned that strong tornadoes are a possibility on Sunday across parts of the southeast. Right now, there's a 5% tornado risk. It's conditional, but it's something we are absolutely watching. Stay with us, because we could be live today and tomorrow covering this elevated severe weather threat. Now let's go deeper on today's severe weather risk. We'll start with the significant tornado parameter values, basically where our greatest tornado threat lives today. And today is interesting because our main corridor will have a line of thunderstorms pushing toward Houston and Lake Charles during the afternoon hours. There's also a secondary setup late today into the evening, a cold core tornado setup back over western Oklahoma and north central Texas. This is mostly an area where I'm expecting a few funnel clouds. We're not looking at a major tornado threat back there, but this evening, keep a close eye on the sky in western Oklahoma and Texas. There could be some funnel clouds, maybe a brief tornado. Near Houston tonight, the tornado threat gets much more elevated as wind shear increases significantly. We'll have a lot of moisture there. If any discrete cell manages to form, the tornado potential goes up considerably. Otherwise, the tornado threat will be more random within the overall line of thunderstorms, and we'll continue watching for a tornado risk into the overnight hours near Jackson, Mississippi, back through Mobile, Alabama, and eventually pushing into Florida as we head into tomorrow morning. Here's the timing for today. Across the southern plains, expect a lot of rain over the next several hours from Missouri and Kansas back through Arkansas. There could be some rumbles of thunder, but we are not expecting severe weather that far north. A large cluster of thunderstorms will roll through the Dallas-Fort Worth area and back through Waco and San Angelo through the morning. I'm not expecting much severe weather, but an isolated damaging wind gust or a brief tornado is not out of the question. Generally speaking, though, The severe weather risk stays on the lower side through the morning. After lunchtime, the line of thunderstorms continues pushing east. Heavy rain continues across Arkansas, leading to some localized flooding. The main severe weather threat shifts to the stretch from Texarkana back down toward Austin, Texas. That's where we're expecting scattered damaging winds around 60 to 65 mph. And then the tornado threat ramps up as we go into the evening. After 5 p.m. is when I expect this tornado threat to grow. Once we get closer to the overnight hours, this line of storms is not stopping. Damaging winds will continue from southern Arkansas back through Louisiana. Louisiana holds the greatest tornado threat during the evening hours. And once we hit the overnight, tornadoes remain a possibility, not a high risk by any means, but embedded tornadoes near Jackson, back toward New Orleans during the overnight hours, are still on the table. Make sure you have multiple ways to receive alerts and have a tornado action plan ready before you go to sleep tonight. Now, as we go into tomorrow, the tornado threat continues. I do think it fades by daybreak in Alabama and Mississippi. However, it rebounds in the afternoon hours as wind shear increases again. A small warm sector makes its way into the Big Bend of Florida and southern Georgia, and there will be at least some sort of favorable environment for a couple of tornadoes tomorrow afternoon. If any discrete supercells form, we could be looking at a strong tornado. The greatest risk of that will be around Jacksonville, Florida, just north of Gainesville. Make sure you have multiple ways to receive alerts tomorrow. And by the way, this is not far from where the Daytona 500 is happening. There is also a low-end tornado risk into Central Florida. Here's the timing for tomorrow. The overnight thunderstorm line continues and falls apart by around daybreak, with mainly an isolated damaging wind risk in central Alabama and maybe a brief spin-up somewhere. Then by tomorrow afternoon, right around lunchtime, we're watching a line of thunderstorms moving across Panama City. That is where the heightened tornado risk returns. We could see a strong tornado or two if discrete supercells manage to form out ahead of this line. If those discrete supercells don't form, and I do think they will, it'll mainly be the line producing damaging winds with a couple of embedded tornadoes. By 12 to 1 p.m., the line continues east. If the discrete supercells do fire, they'll eventually merge back into the main line around 3 to 4 p.m. over southeastern Georgia. By 5 to 6 p.m., this line is racing toward the Daytona 500, literally, and then on toward Orlando, where damaging winds become the primary concern. A brief tornado risk holds through about 7 p.m. Once this pushes toward Melbourne and Tampa Bay, the tornado threat drops to near zero. It's also going to be a very wet couple of days. We're expecting a widespread 1 to 3 inches of rain from Dallas-Fort Worth and Abilene back through Nashville, Tennessee. Some areas in Arkansas and near Memphis could easily pick up 2 to 4 inches. Localized spots between Memphis and Little Rock could see 5 to 6 inches of rainfall. Generally speaking, this will be a pretty significant rain event across these areas, and we really haven't seen much rain here recently. Good news for the dry stretch, but localized flooding in low-lying areas is a real concern. Now, that's not all with this storm, because there is a legitimate possibility of snow back in the mid-Atlantic and Northeast tomorrow evening. This is not a guarantee right now. It is still very hard to forecast because it comes down entirely to the storm track and intensity. Models have been trending a little more north over the last 24 hours, which, if that holds, would put a large area of snow across parts of Maryland, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Long Island, and southern New England tomorrow evening. Right now, we're mostly expecting a coating to maybe 3 inches for most areas. However, if this scenario pans out, we could easily see more than that, upward of 6 to 8 inches in some localized spots. We need to keep a very close eye on this. The GFS model is actually showing this system intensifying rapidly as it moves offshore. And if that happens, we could see significant snowfall in areas that aren't even thinking about snow right now. And here's what makes this crazy. Look at the model discrepancy we have right now for this possible snow event tomorrow night into early Monday. That is about 48 hours away. The GFS model is showing a widespread 6 to 10 inches of snow from around Washington, D.C. back through eastern New Jersey, with Long Island in the 3 to 6-inch range. Meanwhile, the European model is showing next to nothing, a coating to maybe 3 inches. And then the National Weather Service forecast is showing basically nothing, only a coating to maybe a half inch across parts of Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Right now, I think the European model is likely the more realistic scenario. But things can and will change as we get new model runs tonight and tomorrow morning. We will keep you updated the moment anything shifts on this. On top of all that, we have more concerns developing as we head into Tuesday and Wednesday. A very powerful atmospheric river event is expected along the West Coast. Some of that energy will push over the Rockies and into the northern plains. A large winter storm threat is likely by late Tuesday and Wednesday across the northern plains, Midwest, and the Great Lakes. Another one could follow right behind it heading into Thursday and Friday. The GFS isn't showing much on that second round yet, but the European model, which has been the most accurate guidance this winter, does indicate a decent shot of snowfall toward the end of the week across the Midwest and the Northeast, with some freezing rain possible as well. That is something we are going to be watching very closely. Stay locked in, because this pattern is not done with us, and I will have updates as soon as the guidance comes into better agreement. I will see you in the next one.